Hey guys, it's Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So, for today's video, we're going to be tackling a very hot and divisive topic in the Halo community lately. I honestly wasn't sure if I wanted to discuss this, but a lot of people have asked me what my thoughts were about Halo Infinite, and in almost every conversation about the current state of Halo Infinite, the question always comes up about whether Halo Infinite needs to be delayed a year at this point for more polish, or if it even benefit from a delay at all. So I figured for this video I'd tackle that question and share my thoughts on the subject. So in this video, we'll be taking a look at both sides of the argument here, before I let you know my personal opinion on the matter. So let's start by taking a look at the arguments in favor of delaying the game. The elephant in the room with that is obviously the graphics. There's plenty of videos out there, such as Digital Foundry's video, that do a lot of really good in-depth analysis of the graphics presented in the gameplay demo that was shown at the Xbox Showcase event very recently. The general consensus in all these videos is that the graphics of Halo Infinite so far look really flat because of the lighting techniques that were used, which is also further held back by the fact that this game was most likely originally built from the ground up to target the original Xbox One from 2013, instead of being a pure, true next-gen game that targets only the Xbox Series X and PC. That's why things like ray tracing support, which Digital Foundry believes would solve a lot of the graphical issues in Halo Infinite, won't be available at launch and is getting added in a patch sometime after launch later down the road. That suggests that the game is going to ship kind of unfinished at launch to some extent and only getting fixed post-launch. Now that's not an uncommon practice these days with video games. You may have noticed a lot of games these days ship with huge day one patches, and if you install a game off a disc while offline, the result is often a broken game with a lot of core features missing. Even Halo 5 launched without its Forge mode, and if you saw one of the videos a while back, if you install MCC off the disc without any updates, it's missing half the multiplayer modes too. Although in that situation, that could probably be due to the game being too big to fit on a single disc, which is still just as unfortunate for people who play offline, or people who can't be downloading massive patches frequently for new games. I've always been of the belief that at the very least, the core game should be available on disc when it launches, but that's not the case anymore with a lot of games these days. Anyways, I'm kind of getting off topic here, so back to Halo Infinite. So there's a lot of rumors, theories, and even misinformation going around lately, and some of those things are actually hard to track down the original source, but I'm pretty sure it's been confirmed that the gameplay demo shown is of an older build, a much older build, and that a lot of progress has been made since then. You can base that off the gameplay trailer that was released shortly after the demo. In the trailer, some things like the Mangler had improved textures and looked more detailed overall. Now, one thing I've heard is that the demo shown was from back in January of this year, but I haven't been able to actually verify or track down an official source for that. I know some highly respected streamers or YouTubers who say they have inside sources have mentioned that January estimate, but I'm not gonna go too much into that right now. But even if the build was from January, it's still not that far away from launch for Halo Infinite. It really makes you wonder how much they're gonna be able to improve by the time the game launches, and what kind of crunch that might require of the devs. So that's basically the biggest arguments people who think Halo Infinite should be delayed another year have. The intention of that is to give the devs more time to polish the game and improve things while also not requiring, a massive crunch for the devs. It sounds pretty reasonable, and if it was announced that Halo Infinite needed another year for polish, I wouldn't mind either. I want the game to be as great and successful as it can be. However, delaying the game likely is impossible anyways. You see, Halo Infinite is supposed to be the launch game for the Xbox Series X. It's like the premier launch title that Microsoft needs to pair with the Xbox Series X. Kind of like how the original Xbox needed Halo 1 as a launch title, and without Halo 1, or Halo in general, it's debatable how successful the Xbox brand as a whole would have been back then. Therefore, with Halo Infinite being the strongest launch title for the Xbox Series X at the moment, it's highly unlikely Microsoft would allow a delay. To them, it's probably more worth it to just launch the game as is and keep fixing it after launch than to delay one of the most important launch games they have. But if the game were to be delayed, it would be for the purpose of launching the game in a much more complete state and having important features like ray tracing built in, while also taking that crunch and pressure off of the devs and employees. As for the other side of the argument, they believe Halo Infinite doesn't need to be delayed, of course. Their main reasoning is that the graphics don't really matter too much as long as the gameplay is solid and the game runs well. Their point is that at the end of the day, as long as the game is fun, the gameplay is good, and performance is solid, then that's what matters more than graphics. It's the age-old argument that good graphics don't necessarily make a game, but rather a game is defined more by its gameplay. It's a good philosophy, and one that I agree with as well. Because as far as the gameplay demo goes, yeah, the graphics weren't the greatest, and there were certainly a lot of issues with them, leading to hilarious memes being created, but ultimately, none of that is actually game-breaking. Now, it doesn't excuse like the issues there, and it shouldn't launch like that, but it doesn't make the game unplayable, so to speak. I mean, sure, yes, nicer graphics doesn't hurt. It can only make the game better. It can only be a plus, but it's not going to physically prevent someone from being able to play Halo Infinite and enjoy it. And personally, to me, while the graphics aren't going to blow anyone away and aren't really like that next gen, they're still alright in some regards, and it's not like we're playing Halo and Pac-Man graphics. Now, as mentioned before in the arguments in favor of delaying the game, people will often point out that the gameplay demo was a much older build, possibly from as far back as January, and that a lot has improved since then, and a lot more will surely improve by launch. I think that's a fair point too. If the demo was indeed from as far back as January, assuming Halo Infinite launches in November of this year, there's still several months left to go, and we've seen a lot of games in the past change a lot in just the span of a few months. Take Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, for example. When its first reveal trailer was shown, aside from the other controversy with it, there were still a few rough edges here and there, and the overall graphics and lighting weren't finalized yet either. But within half a year, the game changed a lot visually and looked so much nicer than the reveal trailer. So it's not like it's impossible for the game to be improved a lot by the time it launches. There's still time left. But that brings up the other question, which is at what cost? If fixing the graphics and getting the game to look a lot nicer at launch is going to require a massive level of crunch on the devs, then that's not a good thing at all. Developer crunch has been another hot topic in the video game industry lately, with a lot of big studios like Rockstar being called out for putting their devs through such a terrible crunch for such a long time as well. If rushing development on a game by pushing devs through a huge crunch is what it's going to take, then it wouldn't really be that reasonable anymore to not delay the game. But of course, we really have no idea where Halo Infinite is right now in its current state, like at the studio, what the most up-to-date build looks like. Maybe the gameplay demo was really that old, and at the studio the graphics have already been largely polished, so all that's left is just a few things here and there that won't require a huge crunch of the devs. If that's the case, then yeah, no need to delay the game anymore, because the next thing a lot of people will say on the subject is that we've waited so long for the next Halo game. It's finally time we got one. I believe it's been almost 5 years now since we got Halo 5, and this has been one of the longest spans of time between new mainline Halo games. So it's totally understandable that a lot of people are very anxious and can't wait any longer to finally try out a new Halo game after having waited so long. Even I'll admit, the past several E3s, I kept expecting Halo Infinite to finally get a release date each of those years, but it never really happened, and that's why a lot of people, including myself, are very excited to finally see a new Halo game. In other words, a lot of people simply can't wait any longer for Halo Infinite, and another year would drive them crazy. But of course, the main point of people who don't think Halo Infinite needs to be delayed is that the game is in a good state right now so far. It's made good progress and still has plenty of time to get even better. And also, as long as the gameplay is solid and the graphics are good enough, then that's fine as it is. Which is also a reasonable belief for Halo Infinite as well. Alright, so with the points from both sides in mind, what's my personal opinion on whether Halo Infinite needs to be delayed? Well, currently, and this may change if more verifiable information comes out, I am of the opinion that Halo Infinite does not need to be delayed at the moment. But I definitely would agree that an extra year of development for the game could only be beneficial for it. So yeah, I know that's kind of taking both sides, but really both sides do make good arguments. However, I happen to lean on the side of the game not needing to be delayed at the moment. The reason is we really don't know much about the state of the game right now internally at the studio. A lot really could have changed from the time that the demo was actually made. So I feel it's somewhat overreacting to declare the game needs to be delayed solely based on the demo. That being said, more information comes out every so often, and some people with quote-unquote inside sources are hearing some not so good things about Halo Infinite. I don't really want to dwell on rumors too much, but some things I've heard are that, for example, the game's development is stuck right now, and that's why they had to show an older build of the game, while other rumors floating around are that multiplayer might not even be ready at launch and needs to be released as a patch later on, like Forge was for Halo 5. If those rumors do turn out to be true, then I would 100% agree that the game needs to be delayed, and the devs given ample time to finalize the product. But of course, right now, that's all just rumors and unconfirmed leaks. Remember all those supposed leaks and rumors about the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5? One week you'd have leaks and rumors that the Xbox is more powerful. Then the next week, an article would come out about the PS5 being way more powerful than the Xbox. And every week you'll just keep flip-flopping with new rumors and leaks, and each console being better than the others. So, it's... Point is, take any rumors with a grain of salt and don't assume them to be fact until it's confirmed to be a fact. That's why at the moment, I don't feel Halo Infinite is at a point where it desperately needs to be delayed. The gameplay demo being an older build is pretty much confirmed now, but if it turns out to also not be true, then yeah, my opinion might also change too. Point is though, there's just not enough information right now to be staunchly in favor of either side yet. I'm cautiously optimistic about the game, and I'm still looking forward to its launch, and I genuinely hope it's a solid and successful game too. That being said, based on all the footage we've seen so far, there are still some things that I believe need to be fixed before the game launches. Some specific things. These things are just minor bugs and issues we saw in the gameplay demo, so these bugs might not necessarily be valid anymore and might have already been fixed by now, but in the tradition of this channel, I'll point out some of those bugs we've noticed just to bring awareness to them in the hopes that they'll be fixed before the game launches, if they haven't already. So let's just start with the real obvious ones and breeze through them because everyone likely knows about these already. The first is that brutes don't have any facial expression animations. While in combat or talking or dying, the brutes have a totally neutral expression on their face the entire time. It's become the biggest Halo meme ever, with everyone naming one of the brutes Craig. That obviously needs to be fixed, but it would actually make for a funny skull to have in the game. But anyways, another bug we notice is a lot of texture popping in the distance, as well as on the grass while you're walking around. Again, this isn't game breaking, but fixing these would go a long way to helping the game look better, especially on next-gen consoles. Another thing that I feel should be fixed is making the phantom flying animations smoother. They look pretty janky based on the demo so far, and others have told me that they were also kind of janky in Halo 5 as well, compared to the Phantoms in Halo 2 and 3. So yeah, smoothing that out would make it look better, since the Phantom itself already looks kind of blocky, or almost toy-like to me. This next one I actually didn't notice at the time in my previous video about things you might have missed in the Halo Infinite trailers, but basically when the brute tosses a grunt at you, the brute seemingly does it with no animations, and the grunt just gets tossed on its own. So it seems like overall brutes simply just drew the short straw when it comes to animations at the moment. This next one actually can affect gameplay though, somewhat, and it seems to be a possible AI bug where sometimes when brutes throw a grenade at you, they just go idle and don't do anything for a bit. If the AI really is somewhat broken or bugged, then that definitely needs to be fixed by launch. The next thing is when picking up this particular weapon during the demo, the screen kind of went really blurry for a second. I have no idea if this is intentional or if it's some kind of bug, but it was easy to miss, and once again I did want to point it out just in case. Finally, the last potential bug we spotted is the button mapping for the grapple hook changing randomly. You can see here at first the grapple hook uses the RB button to deploy, but then later here, after using another piece of equipment, the button mapping for the grapple hook strangely changes from RB to LB. Of course, this could all be intentional and part of some gameplay feature we're not aware of yet, So no need to jump to any major conclusions about this, but we did just want to bring it up for the purposes of awareness, just in case. But yeah, that about wraps it up for all the bigger potential bugs we spotted in the Halo Infinite footage we've seen so far. Again, this build is very likely a much older build, so a lot of those bugs might have been already fixed by now, but that's what we do on this channel, point out bugs we can in the hopes of that it'll bring awareness for future bug fixes. But none of those bugs are really game breaking, except maybe AI going idle for a bit after throwing grenades. So if the game still launched with these bugs, it'll kind of be like an ugh moment for me, but most of these are aesthetic issues overall, and wouldn't really warrant the game needing to be delayed till next year anyways. So yeah, once again, I'm of the opinion that the game doesn't need to be delayed right now, even though it could benefit from having more time. But that opinion could very well change if new confirmed information comes to light. In the meantime though, the list of small bugs are things I feel should be fixed before the game launches. Fixing all these would definitely help improve the game in my opinion. But yeah, that's it for today's video. If you all want to share your thoughts about whether you agree or disagree, or whether you think Halo Infinite should be delayed or not, feel free to civilly discuss that in the comments below. But aside from that, if you did enjoy this video, then as always, make sure to leave a like. If there's anything else you want me to look into or tackle, then feel free to let me know in the comments below as well. And if you guys haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all next time. Bye guys!